You're going to be serving in Europe. What might be some of the prevailing cultural attitudes and phenomena that you will discover there? I would say that most Europeans conceptualize disability according to the medical model. It's a problem that certain individuals have, wherein disability is a deviation from a preferred normal. In recent decades, there have been many concerted efforts, both in public and private sectors, to welcome people with disabilities into mainstream society and community life. In some places, this has taken root amazingly well. Probably in most places, it hasn't particularly penetrated into the culture that deeply. In the EU in particular, the state and the safety net exist to see that people with special needs are taken care of, and for the most part, the state does so quite well. The downside of that is that for most temporarily non-disabled people, it's pretty easy to forget that so many people actually have disabilities. Out of sight, out of mind. So to many, they are truly invisible. The only actual direct experience for many in a lot of localities is the phenomenon of street begging. It might be the only time they actually see a person with a disability. This in itself also contributes to a lot of the existing stereotypes when that's by and large the only time you see a disabled person. I would say most of the other routine interactions where non-disabled and disabled people come together, they're marked by a certain degree of discomfort, largely just because of the lack of experience. Subjectively, attitude-wise, I would say most people look at people with disabilities as deserving of pity. Like, I'm so glad that that's not me. In Eastern Europe, the legacy and history of invisibility and intentional exclusion run far deeper. People with disabilities were intentionally, actively, not just passively pushed to the side, but hidden away and made to be invisible, if not to actually disappear. This has resulted in stronger reactions, both kind of against inclusion because it's just so countercultural, but for inclusion because they've experienced more distinctly, like how bad it is. In general, though, there is a move toward embracing inclusion. That is the social tendency, and this is a really great opportunity for churches that are inclusive to have a positive, even leading influence on your culture, as municipal people, even governments, may be looking to you as the church if you, in fact, are able to show them the way forward. We've seen that happen, and it's really exciting. I want to talk a little bit about the intersectional nature of disability. My team works extensively with the Roma peoples in Europe, the so-called gypsies. Due to their marginalized status, diseases such as polio and other disabling conditions are rampant. So the prevalence of disability among Roma is just unreal. However, most Roma work goes to help able-bodied Roma, while most disability work in Roma is oriented to benefit white Europeans with disabilities. And this shows why a holistic understanding of disability and marginalization is so important. And who better to bring that to the table than workers in God's kingdom? I also want to point out another interesting dynamic with the Roma in that they are kept out of public schools in many places by a pretty tricky sleight of hand that involves disability. In most countries, it's illegal to segregate in education on the basis of race, but it's not illegal to segregate on the basis of intellectual ability. Therefore, in many places, educational tests, even the ones produced by the government, are skewed so that Roma children score low enough to be labeled as challenged and sent away to special schools, which means they're away from the white majority, and it also means that both kids in the schools for people with disabilities and the Roma people are underserved. So, if you're going to the Europe field with children, though, I want to make one other comment. This could be a really interesting opportunity. Many public school systems, in particularly Western European countries, do inclusion and acceptance quite well from the early stages of education, even to the point that many, if not most, young children's experience of difference, including most forms of physical and intellectual disability, is quite different from that of their parents. So there's a dynamic of cultural and generational change that's at play here, and I pray that you will be able to see opportunities and engage with families in a way that will recommend the gospel well.